and for you. It is the 100th anniversary of Nancy Reagan's birthday. What a legacy. She set such a phenomenal example for all First Ladies to follow. I'm just ecstatic to be a part of the board, to be here at the Reagan Library, and to be here at a time commemorating such an important moment for such a wonderful person like Nancy Reagan.
Ronald Reagan would not be president were it not for Nancy Reagan.
She supported and loved Ronald Reagan to such a degree that it gave him the optimism and confidence to carry out his program in making Americans proud to be Americans again.
This was a real partnership for his career in the service of the nation, and it's one for which we can all be very grateful, just as I am grateful for the privilege and pleasure of having known Nancy Reagan.
You did a great job helping in your own way as a spouse of the president, as a first lady, to help bring the Cold War to an end. That was good for everybody.
She wanted her husband to go down in history as a great president, as a peacemaker. She does understand that with Gorbachev, he potentially has a partner who could work with him on this. And she is just absolutely relentless in pushing for this to happen. She really was a lot more willing to trust the Soviets than a lot of us were, because she had a lot of faith in her husband's abilities as a negotiator.
They're certainly the most married couple I have ever known.
The two are inseparable in my memory, just as they were in real life. If Ronald Reagan had owned a shoe store, Mike Deaver once wrote, Nancy would have been happy pushing shoes and working the register.
This year commemorates what would have been Nancy Reagan's 100th birthday.
Nancy Reagan was a wonderful human being and a true American icon. In her years as First Lady, her grace, her poise will always set the standard for First Ladies for generations to come.
And it was through her revolutionary campaign against drug and alcohol abuse that millions of Americans learned to just say no. So on behalf of America,
happy birthday, Mrs. Reagan.
So Nancy, in front of all your friends here today, let me say thank you for all you do. Thank you for your love. And thank you for just being you.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and welcome to this month's Live From at the Reagan Library. Remember, we do these on the first Wednesday of every month. If you're hearing a weird noise in the background, that's our cleaning crew vacuuming our galleries, so just stick with us, the noise background. We're sorry about that. Yesterday, July 6, 2021, marked the 100th anniversary of the birth of Nancy Davis Reagan. To commemorate the milestone, we here at the Reagan Foundation and Institute have launched the Nancy Reagan Centennial. It's a year-long program filled with events, exhibits, special programs, and special projects to commemorate Mrs. Reagan's life of contributions to this nation, as well as her extraordinary achievements in her life. So in today's Live From, we're going to talk about some of these contributions, some of these achievements. We want to thank you for joining us. As always, we love to take your questions at the end. So please, if you have any questions about Mrs. Reagan or the President or the Reagan Library or us being back open, please put it in the comment section below. And at the end of this podcast, I will do my best to answer them. So who was Nancy Davis Reagan? So she was born in New York, and she, of course, ultimately became an actress, a wife, a mother, the First Lady of California, and the First Lady of the United States. She was actually born in Queens as Anne Frances Robbins, and it was her mother who gave her the nickname Nancy. She couldn't remember a time in her life where she didn't want to be in the theater, and in 1949, she signed a 7-year contract with MGM. She made 11 films. In fact, this is one of the scripts from those films. And although the contract was just for 7 years, she actually remained a member of the Screen Actors Guild for nearly 70 years. And it was through that membership that she met Ronald Reagan, who was president of the Screen Actors Guild at the time. So as we said, Mrs. Reagan had so many roles and life achievements, you know, actress, wife, mother, First Lady of California, First Lady of the United States. But it was her role of advocate that was her most important role. As First Lady of the United States, while in the White House, she served in a diplomatic capacity, both at home and abroad. And in 1983, November of 1983, Mrs. Reagan traveled to Japan with President Reagan and also to Seoul, South Korea. While in South Korea, she visited an institution that housed really sick children with heart defects. And the purpose of the institution was to match those children with hospitals in the United States that could provide those children with the life-saving surgeries that they needed. At that visit, Mrs. Reagan met 7-year-old An Ji-suk and 4-year-old Lee Kil-woo, and she insisted that she bring both of those children back on board Air Force One with her. She took them to New York. They got the surgeries they needed. Years later, Lee Kil-woo wrote Mrs. Reagan a letter thanking her for everything she did to help him, help save his life. He was fine. He had been adopted by an American family. His name was now Brett Halverson. And in 2007, Brett and Mrs. Reagan were able to meet here at the Reagan Library and reconnect. As some of her other diplomatic missions and capacity, Mrs. Reagan traveled with President Reagan on some of his diplomatic missions when Ronald Reagan met with Mikhail Gorbachev as Ronald Reagan tried to negotiate bringing an end to the Cold War. After the Geneva Summit in 1985, Raisa Gorbachev, who was Mikhail Gorbachev's wife, gifted Mrs. Reagan this necklace right here. Now, as First Lady of California, Mrs. Reagan advocated for the most senior and the most junior of its citizens by regularly visiting care centers for the elderly and hospitals and schools for children with physical and special needs. In 1967, she visited one of these hospitals, and she was introduced to the foster grandparent program. It's now part of AmeriCorps. It was founded during President Lyndon Johnson's time and was originally run by Sergeant Shriver. The foster grandparent program uniquely matches isolated seniors with children with special needs for the emotional benefit of both. Mrs. Reagan quickly became a champion of the program, and when she became First Lady of the United States, she brought a more national attention and national exposure to the program. In 1982, she co-authored a book called To Love a Child, and then 2 songwriters penned a song of the same name that Frank Sinatra recorded. All proceeds from the record sales and the book sales went to support To Love a Child. She even advocated for local communities to raise funds as well. Now, also in 1982, Mrs. Reagan was at an event, and at that event, a young girl asked her, you know, Mrs. Reagan, what do you do if someone offers you drugs? And Mrs. Reagan said, well, you just say no, and a national campaign was born. Over the next 6 or 7 years, while Ronald Reagan was president, Mrs. Reagan traveled nearly 250,000 miles, both here in the United States and abroad, to bring awareness to fighting substance abuse and the importance of fighting substance abuse. She, at the end of Ronald Reagan's presidency, there were over 12,000 Just Say No clubs around the world. In fact, she was recognized for her efforts in October of 1988 by being the first ever presidential spouse to ever be able to address the United Nations. Now, post-presidency, after President Reagan passed away, Mrs. Reagan turned her advocacy to stem cell research. She wanted to help raise funds to bring awareness and help find cures for diseases like Alzheimer's and other illnesses. She received a Caregivers Award from the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. She wrote a letter to President George W. Bush asking for his support. And because of her efforts, she was able to raise millions of dollars for stem cell research. Again, not only helping to find a cure for Alzheimer's and other diseases, but her goal was also to help end the stigma of Alzheimer's disease, to bring it more into common awareness, people being able to be more comfortable speaking about the disease. So as we said in the very beginning of this year is the Nancy Reagan Centennial. It's a year-long commemoration, events, exhibits, programs, special projects, and we want you to be involved. So we encourage all of you just to simply go to our website at reaganfoundation.org/Nancy Reagan Centennial to learn about all the projects that we're doing. But we also ask that maybe you go on your social media and you share your most favorite memory of Mrs. Reagan. If you do that on Facebook or Instagram, please tag us at Nancy Davis Davis Reagan. And if you do that on Twitter, please tag us at Ronald Reagan. So that's our conversation today about Mrs. Reagan, her achievements, her accomplishments. But as you know, if you watch these with us each month, we spend the end going over some items that you could purchase in our store that fits the theme of our podcast. So of course, today is Mrs. Reagan. The first thing we want to share is this brand new book just released a few months ago by Karen Tumulty called The Triumph of Nancy Reagan. The book is incredible. It's truly a definitive biography. We're meeting with people who have been reading it and who know Mrs. Reagan very intimately, and they're saying they're still learning things about Mrs. Reagan from this book that they didn't even know. So it's a great must-read. You can buy it from our store, and Karen was actually on our property yesterday in honor of Mrs. Reagan's birthday, and she signed a lot of books. You can actually purchase an autographed book through our website. Again, reaganlibrary.com/store. You can find this book. Now, every Christmas, the Reagan Library launches a commemorative Christmas ornament. Now, back in 2016, we released the Christmas ornament that is Mrs. Reagan's official White House portrait. Although it's 2016 and today's 2021, we do keep all commemorative ornaments on display every year, and they come out, so it's still, even though it's 5 years later, a great ornament to add to your collection. Again, reaganlibrary.com/store. This is a beautiful framed photograph of Mrs. Reagan. It has her signature on a nameplate. It includes the Reagan Library presidential seal, and it also includes one of the statements Mrs. Reagan once made about her husband, which reads, "Ronnie's optimism, like America's, still shines very brightly. May God bless him, and from both of us, God bless America." So that's a beautiful, something you might want in your office or your home. And then this is a stunning coffee table book. Back in 2008, our special exhibition was actually on Mrs. Reagan, her fashion, her dresses, and we interviewed her designers, her friends, colleagues, and in the book, this is actually, the book obviously comes out of its case. It's stunning photographs and intimate stories about Mrs. Reagan's life, and this is just a great collection that you might want for your home or office. And then the last item is this great First Lady mug. We sell lots of mugs in our store, and this one's neat because, of course, it says First Lady on one side, and there's a quote on the back, and the quote reads, "Women are like tea bags. They never know how strong they are until they get in hot water." And she loved that quote so much, it was actually even embroidered on a pillow that sits in her private office here at the Reagan Library. So again, just reaganlibrary.com/store. If you scroll down just a little bit, there's a featured products section. All of these items are in the featured products section. But also if you want to search, and you can search by collections, we have a First Lady collection, and there's so many other items in that collection that we haven't even talked about today if you just want to look and browse as well. So again, in the very beginning, we talked about I want to take your questions. So now is the time. If you haven't asked a question yet, please go into the comments section. Anything about Mrs. Reagan, the President, the Reagan Library, I will do my best to answer it. I'm just going into the post right now to see if I can find any questions. Let's see, here we go. Thank you all for watching. Let's see if I can find any questions. If not, when are you going to do an Iran-Contra exhibit? We actually have one. There's a gallery that talks about President Reagan traveling across the United States and the world, and various speeches and things that he gave in those locations. And in that section, we do talk about the Iran-Contra scandal, because we want to be as honest as we can about President Reagan and his presidency. While we wait just another minute to see if any more questions come in, the Reagan Library is back open. We are so thrilled. We're open 7 days a week again. We have our brand new exhibition, FBI from Al Capone to Al Qaeda, on display. And that's a great exhibition. In fact, next month's Live From will be in those galleries, so we hope you join us. I want to thank you all for joining us and for watching. I don't see any other questions, but if you have a question and you want to put it in the comment section, I can go check later today and answer that question then. So thank you so much for joining us. As always, we ask that you follow us on all of our social media channels, and especially subscribe to us on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Reagan Foundation, so you can be notified when we do all of our different live events and virtual events. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next month.
What do you say about someone who gives your life meaning? What do you say about someone who's always there with support and understanding? Someone who makes sacrifices so that your life will be easier and more successful. But what you say is that you love that person and treasure her. I simply can't imagine the last 8 years without Nancy. The presidency wouldn't have been the joy it's been for me without her there beside me. And that second floor living quarters in the White House would have seemed a big and lonely spot without her waiting for me every day at the end of the day. You know, she once said that a president has all kinds of advisors and experts who look after his interest when it comes to foreign policy or the economy or whatever, but no one who looks after his needs as a human being. Well, Nancy has done that for me through recuperations and crises. Every president should be so lucky. I think it's all too common in marriages that no matter how much partners love each other, they don't thank each other enough. And I suppose I don't thank Nancy enough for all that she does for me. So Nancy, in front of all your friends here today, let me say thank you for all you do. Thank you for your love. And thank you for just being you. You got a cuddle up?